Okay, well, I'm just going to show you a little what I'm doing to smooth off the edges. And because it is kind of rough. Yeah, I don't know if you can see that. How's the lighting? Yeah, doesn't matter. You'll get the idea. But, you know, take your chisel. Oh, can you see my chisel? No, not really. Going up. You know, just going around the edge very slowly and carefully to smooth off the glue mostly. Mostly it's the glue. Oh, look. I'll be your mirror. Hey, remember Nico? I do. Friar Hermit stumbled over. You can do it in either mode. I kind of like scraper mode because it's easier to stay flush to the surface. But you can also go like this. The point is slowly, carefully, and not trying to take off too much at once. You know, think of the chisel as being like sandpaper. And you want to take off little tiny pieces of whatever. So the strategy is to don't mess with the side. If the top is sticking up, I'm going to go ahead and make it flush to the side. If the side is sticking up, too bad. I might change my mind later, but for now, that's the strategy. And it's okay to take wood off of the top because I'll just hit it with some black marker. But the side, I don't want to mess with it for now. You just take what you get. Alright. Okay. So I went around the thing with the chisel. And it's kind of smooth enough, you know. God, I wish I could tell when it's in focus. And you can still see the edge. That's where the bottom is sticking out more than the top. You know, and the bottom is sticking out more than the top. Like around there. On this side, yeah, the top was sticking out more than the bottom. Things got a little bit out of control down there. But that's mostly finish. I tried to avoid messing with the wood on the side. I tried. But, you know, we already know how good I am at carving. So, anyway, yeah, I found myself going around like this. After a while, sharpened it, got a new burr, and did kind of scraping. And even when I was using the sharp edge of the chisel, I tended to bevel the sides a little bit. Well, you're not going to see it, but to avoid digging into the sides. So the question is, what now? I mean, I'm thinking about just putting some black marker on there. Marks a lot and calling it good. You know? Should I put black marks a lot on the top? I mean, because it looks like someone already did. I mean, except more finish came off. Should I fill that in with more black? See, the thing of it is, once I start messing with the finish, you know, the finish is going to come off. And I don't know how to do a burst, so it'll be natural, right? And is that what I want to do with this thing? Or do I just want to leave it alone? So that's the question. But, you know, the edges, yeah, that can be black marks a lot. And, yeah, I may do some touch-up with lacquer. Or maybe I don't know. But it's basically smooth enough to hold and smooth enough to play, and that was the main thing. You know, the blobs of glue were pretty annoying, and it's a lot less annoying. Yeah, I may take a little bit of sandpaper to it, But, you know, I don't want to start sanding on the side. I want the sides to stay intact. Why? Because maybe someday it gets a binding. So I don't want to mess with the side. Just saying, that's sort of the plan. So anyway, that's all for now. Okay, are we recording? I think we are. So, let me see. Here's the sandpaper. I went around the edges ever so lightly and ever so slightly to, you know, make it more comfortable, basically. I didn't go flat against the side. It was like a 15-degree angle or so. I don't know, can you see that? Just a little bit of an angle. A little bit of a bevel. And in places where the bottom was sticking out, yeah, the bottom had a little bit taken off. Not much, though. I was trying to avoid, or the side, I guess that's the side. Where the side is sticking out, yeah, we took just a tiny amount off that corner. But basically I wanted it to feel good when my arm was up against it. So yeah, I used 220 with a sanding block to do the sanding. But yeah, do not overdo it. That was the key. Then I went around all of the edges, which now look black, with a fine Sharpie. And the spots on the top that were so exposed, I went over those with a Sharpie too. And there is a trick to it, because, you know, the tip kept getting clogged with little chunks of lacquer coming off. So I'd be always wiping the tip on the napkin and then going back in there and putting more black on. I used a fine Sharpie because it's easier to get into the cracks. I went into the cracks a little bit. But, you know, I'd put it in the crack and then wipe it off with my finger as best as I could. Not a perfect idea. No, none of it's perfect. Yeah, I forgot to do the headstock. I'll get back to that. Put some black on there. I got some new screws for the truss rod cover. I think for now I'm happy where the truss rod is, so I'll go put the cover on. Yeah, I didn't take off the tailpiece, so what's underneath the tailpiece is different from what's not under the tailpiece. So next I'm going to try some lacquer. I'm not going to spray it on, I'm going to spray it into a rag and then rub it on. But we'll see how that goes. When I get there, I'll let you know how I did it. Till later. Well, I'm kind of getting behind on telling you what I'm up to. I sanded the edges a little bit with 220. Maybe I told you about that. A little bit of a bevel. Little bit of a bevel. Smoothed it out. And then I started squirting on some lacquer. Well, okay. I'd squirt the lacquer into a rag and rub it on. Now, why am I doing it this way? Well, because that's the cheapest thing I could find that said lacquer on it. And I figured this old guitar wanted lacquer. Now, the problem is, as you can see, as I rubbed on the lacquer, the black kind of came off. Not completely, though. How many coats have I done so far? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, I've done 7 coats, And this wood is still soaking up the lacquer like a sponge. I'm not getting anything smooth on it. But I've started feathering the edges a little bit of the old finish with some 400 grit. Well, does it say 400? No. That's for, well, you can see the P4 if you can read upside down. That's 400 grit. And I kind of went around the edges to smooth it out. Around the edges to smooth it out with 400. Feather the edges here a little bit. And I took off a little bit of the finish there too. So I'm seeing white stripes where before the sandpaper I didn't. But anyway, that's what I'm doing. Squirt the lacquer into a rag, rub it around the edges to try and get it into the spots where, I wonder if that's in focus. That's pretty good. Into the spots where, yeah, I'd colored it in. As you can see, the black kind of came off there too. A little bit more black. So you get kind of a dark brown effect, which is like, oh well. But here's the thing. You know, you rub the lacquer on the side, you know, onto, you know, trying to get it onto the top, but of course it goes onto the side, as you can see. And down here, I don't know if you can, how well you can see, where the fresh lacquer, you know, I kind of tried to rub it out, make it smooth, and it keeps creeping north. So, in the end, I think I'm going to put a coat over the whole top. Very thin coat, rubbed on, not oversprayed, over rubbed. And I might do one or two coats like that. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, it's not a lot of fun spraying into a rag because you can miss. It's kind of messy. You know, even though I wear gloves, yeah, take off your watch. You don't want your Audemars Piguet on for this part. Just saying. But yeah, I may rub some more onto the top because I like the texture. You know, I don't want to sand it too much. It's like when I'm hitting it with a 400 grit. You know, I'm trying to just barely, you know, smooth it out. You know, just barely try and feather, you know, feather the finish. But yeah, this kind of mismatch in color, well, all I can say is dark brown is better than white. So it's gonna have to do. I'll let you know when I'm done rubbing on finish. Till then. Yeah, so just when I said that'll have to do, I decided to go over it again with the, it's not a Marks-a-Lot actually, it's a Sharpie, and I went around the edges too. Whoops! And I did a mighty sloppy job of it while I was at it. Take that, you priceless museum piece. I don't really expect it to work that well, but on the other hand, maybe I get lucky and end up with the perfect shade of brown. You don't know until you try. Till later. Well, it was time to declare victory and move on. I decided to take what I had and sand it down. I went through the grits, 400, 600, 800, 1,000. 1500, 2000, 2500. Yeah, the only way to not refinish the complete top is to not refinish the complete top. I'm stopping here. It's kind of relic-y looking. It looks artificial, except it actually isn't. I went over what had happened naturally. But, you know, if I touch the wood in the places where it was bare, all those coats of lacquer, I mean, they did something. There's finish there. And it polished up. I mean, you're not going to see the polish. But what you'll see is that the sandpaper, I don't know if you can see that, it's still a little bit of a matte finish. What comes next is the palm of your hand. Yeah, you know, I used to think a hand-rubbed finish meant you rubbed it with your hand. Well, yeah, that's the final step on this one. I polished an entire Gibson LGO that way with the palm of my hand. Took the satin finish up to a gloss. So yeah, that's how the finish looks. And it's done. Well, actually, I've decided I like it, the way that turned out. It's absolutely nothing like what I planned, but I like it. Yeah, I got it a case, and the guy at the guitar store thought it was cool. So it plays pretty good, it sounds pretty good. I've got a couple of last things I want to do. Yeah, I couldn't come up with a convincing way to measure the string height with the dial indicator. And I took the dial indicator apart. You know, I was thinking about taking out the spring and making a little, I don't know, fixture for it. Kind of like, you know, set it over the strings and push down, but I would have needed to remove the spring from the dial indicator, and that just didn't look easy. I mean, it'd be easy to get it out, but suppose I wanted to put it back in. That's the part that didn't look easy. So yeah, I want to make ferrules. I'm just going to make them out of wood because that's what I have. Yeah, that looks fat enough. I'll just turn it down and drill a hole in the middle, and we'll see how that goes. I'll do that on my lathe. And the other last thing is plug the extra screw hole, and let me see, I can use the same dowel rod for that. I'll just turn it down and shove it in. I don't think I'll even use glue. In fact, well, we'll see. We'll see. Maybe a drop of some kind of glue. But yeah, I want the ferrules. Seems like a good idea. And oh, I should try and find better screws for the truss rod cover. So I've got 3 things left. Ferrules, better screws for the truss rod cover, and plug the hole. But dude, this thing plays great. I mean, I wish I could do a more precise setup, but I don't know. I grew up on crappy guitars from the 60s, so it just doesn't bother me as much as some folks if it isn't just exactly perfect. You know, it's about as good as, you know, my other ones as far as playing. Dude, the neck is great. I mean, it's not perfect. I didn't get the fretboard on exactly straight, but it's pretty close. You know, the edges are a little rough, but I decided that's okay, just leave it alone, we're done. And yeah, I like how that turned out. The nice thing is that, you know, I've got finish over here and I've smoothed it out, and that's where my arm goes when I'm playing. In fact, it looks like I'm polishing it up a little bit there with my arm, and it's nice to have it smooth and comfortable when I'm playing. So I'm going to take the strings off and take the tuners off and figure out how to get the right size piece of dowel rod in there. Drill holes in the middle and get the right size of hole in the middle. And see how that goes.